The date was October 31st, 1974. In Deer Park, Texas, the cold Halloween night was in full swing, and the community was wrapped in the joyous tradition of costumes and candy. Among them was Ronald Clark O'Brien, a man who appeared to have it all. He was a respected optician and, notably, a deacon at his local church. He had two young children, Timothy, aged 8, and Elizabeth, aged 5. But behind the facade of the family man lay a dark financial ruin. O'Brien was drowning in debts that totaled over $100,000. Desperate, he had devised a sinister plan. He had recently taken out life insurance policies worth $30,000 on each of his children. For O'Brien, Halloween was not about treats. It was about cash. That night, O'Brien took his children, along with his friend Jim Bates and his two children, out for trick-or-treating. Their search led them to a more affluent neighborhood. It was there that O'Brien claimed to have visited a dark house, where no one answered. He said that instead of giving up, he found tubes of powdered candy, known as pixie sticks, and took them. He distributed the tubes to 5 children in the group: his 2 children, the 2 Bates children, and a neighbor. Upon returning to Deer Park, 8-year-old Timothy asked for one last piece of candy before bed. O'Brien, with a strange and insistent urgency, pushed the giant pixie sticks onto him. Timothy barely managed to consume the candy. Almost instantly, he began to vomit violently, followed by uncontrollable convulsions. O'Brien called emergency services, and the rush to the hospital began, but it was too late. Timothy was pronounced dead in under an hour. The autopsy revealed the brutal truth. The cause of death was potassium cyanide poisoning. The dose was lethal. A chilling panic spread through Deer Park and across Texas. Police launched a frantic search for the other 4 poisoned pixie sticks, fearing the Halloween killer was a random stranger, ready to strike again. But O'Brien's story began to unravel in minutes. He could not identify the dark house where the candy supposedly came from. The investigation quickly abandoned the search for a stranger and focused instead on the father. The true motive came to light with police discoveries: O'Brien's crushing debts and the life insurance policies. The most damning act came the day after the burial. O'Brien went to a funeral home and ordered 6 death certificates, the exact number needed to process the insurance claims. The definitive proof was in the candy itself. Investigators recovered the unconsumed tubes. Each one had been meticulously opened, the top replaced with pure cyanide, and then carefully restapled to look intact. This was not the work of a random stranger, but of someone intimately familiar with the packaging. Jim Bates, O'Brien's friend, testified about Ronald's suspicious behavior and his strange insistence on distributing the fatal candy. In June 1975, the trial was swift. The jury took only 46 minutes to find Ronald Clark O'Brien guilty of capital murder and the 4 counts of attempted murder. The sentence quickly followed: death by lethal injection. Shortly after his conviction, his wife filed for divorce. His daughter, Elizabeth, was later adopted by her mother's new husband, erasing the O'Brien name from her life. After years of appeals, justice was finally served. On March 31st, 1984, O'Brien was executed at the Huntsville unit. His last words were a final, desperate plea: "What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong." Outside the prison walls, the community's response was unforgiving. A crowd of 300 people cheered his death. As he died, shouts of "trick or treat" echoed through the night air. The tragedy of Timothy O'Brien forever changed Halloween in America. The case shocked the nation and cemented the fear that danger could be hidden in something as innocent as a child's candy. Ronald Clark O'Brien secured his place in history as the man who killed Halloween, remembered as the father who chose money over the life of his own son. The year was 1973. In the trusting community of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, Halloween was a night of pure, unadulterated freedom. 9-year-old Lisa Ann French, a fourth grader and Girl Scout, left her home on October 31st to meet a friend just a block away. For a child in 1973, walking alone was safe. It was simply part of the holiday tradition. But on this particular night, Lisa never arrived at her friend's house. As the porch lights began to dim and the flow of trick-or-treaters slowed, her mother and stepfather grew frantic. The calls to neighbors, once routine, quickly turned desperate. Lisa Ann French had simply vanished. The alarm that sounded in Fond du Lac was deafening. The entire community mobilized immediately. Over the next 4 days, a massive, exhaustive search operation was launched. More than 5,000 volunteers, on horseback, in private planes, and on foot, combed the fields, parks, and ravines surrounding the quiet city. Hope fought desperately against fear. The search came to a devastating end on November 4th. Lisa's body was discovered, abandoned in a distant field. The medical examiner confirmed the horror. The cause of death was asphyxiation and shock. The scene was one of trauma and violence, immediately escalating the case to a high-priority murder investigation. The investigation swiftly closed in, not on a shadowy stranger, but on a familiar face. Just a half-block from Lisa's home lived Gerald Miles Turner Jr. Lisa knew him well. She would often play nearby and push Turner's infant child in a stroller. This close proximity and initial trust proved to be the monster's advantage. Investigators soon learned that Turner had a concerning, undisclosed history, raising immediate red flags about his character. He was a dangerous individual hiding in plain sight, using the guise of a neighbor to commit his heinous crime. Turner was arrested. Under questioning, he confessed to the murder. Although he would later retract that confession, the physical evidence and the testimony from those around him were undeniable. In June 1975, Gerald Turner was convicted of the murder of Lisa Ann French. The judge sentenced him to 38.5 years in prison, emphasizing Turner's complete lack of human remorse throughout the proceedings. The profound tragedy of Lisa's murder fundamentally changed the holiday in Wisconsin. The fear of the malicious individual, a fear cemented by the Ronald Clark O'Brien case a year later, led many communities to impose strict daylight-only trick-or-treating hours. But the most critical change was legal. In 1994, the state enacted Wisconsin's Chapter 980, quickly nicknamed Turner's Law. This landmark legislation allows for the civil commitment of dangerous offenders after their full prison sentence is served, deeming them too risky to ever walk free. Today, nearly 5 decades later, Lisa's family continues its long, agonizing fight. They must repeatedly petition authorities, ensuring that Gerald Turner, the man who stole their daughter and helped kill the innocents of Halloween, remains under lifetime supervision. Lisa Ann French's memory endures, not just as a victim, but as the catalyst for powerful laws designed to protect children from the enduring threat of violence and betrayal.